Welcome back, beautiful soul. If this is your very first time here, welcome home. You did not land on this video by accident. Something in you, something quiet and searching and brave, brought you exactly here, exactly now. And whatever you are carrying today, whatever weight has been sitting on your chest since this morning, or this week, or this year, I want you to know you are in the right place. Take a breath. This one is for you. And before we go any further, I have to be honest with you. This channel, this space we have built together, it is not backed by ad revenue right now. We have been demonetized, which means every word you hear, every video we create, every message we pour our hearts into is being made purely out of love for you and this community. If these words have ever helped you get up when you did not want to, if they have ever pushed you forward when everything in you wanted to stop, please consider hitting the super thanks linked below in description and supporting us with whatever feels right to you. Every single contribution, no matter how small, tells us you are with us, and it keeps this light burning for the next person who needs it. We are grateful for every one of you. Now, let us get into it. They saw you coming before you even opened your mouth, before you said a word, before you walked into the room, before you did anything at all. They had already made a decision about you. They looked at you and felt something they could not name, something uncomfortable, something that pressed against their ribs like a stone they could not move. And because they could not name it, they called it something else. They called it dislike. They called it doubt. They called it competition. But you and I both know what it really was. It was recognition. They recognized something in you that they had spent years telling themselves did not exist. They recognized that a person could be exactly what you are and still be exactly what you are, and that terrified them. Because when you are both striking and sharp, when you are both beautiful and brilliant, when you carry yourself with a quiet authority that needs no announcement, you become someone that the world's oldest games simply do not work on. And that is the problem they have with you. Not your mistakes, not your flaws, not the things you have done wrong. Those they could use, those they could amplify, those they could hold in the light and say, look, we told you so. But that is not what bothers them. What bothers them is that when they go looking for the ammunition they need, they keep coming back empty. They try to reduce you to your appearance and find that your mind is too present to ignore. They try to dismiss your intelligence and find that your presence is too composed to rattle. They try to find the crack, the flaw, the hidden catastrophe, and instead they find you standing there, whole. That is not a small thing. Do not let anyone convince you that is a small thing. Because the world has a very specific script for people like you. It has a very specific set of moves, a very specific playbook. And the first move in that playbook is always the same. Reduce the person to one thing. Make them one-dimensional. Make them a body without a brain. Make them a brain without a face. Make them a face without a soul. Make them so flat that they can be dismissed with a single sentence. That is the plan. That has always been the plan. And you refuse to cooperate with that plan. Not defiantly, not loudly, simply by being what you are. And it is driving them absolutely wild. You have to understand something about the kind of person who goes out of their way to undermine someone they barely know. You have to understand what is actually happening inside a person who cannot look at your success without needing to explain it away. They are not reacting to you. Not really. They are reacting to everything inside themselves that your existence puts under a spotlight. Every time they see you confident, they feel their own fear. Every time they see you competent, they feel their own inadequacy. Every time they see you beautiful and brilliant and unbothered, they feel the weight of every small choice they made that kept them smaller than they wanted to be. You are not their enemy. You are their mirror. And they hate the mirror, so they do what people do when the mirror shows them something they cannot face. They try to break it. They whisper. They question. They imply. They find the subtle art of the undermining comment, the dismissive tone, the raised eyebrow at the right moment. They ask questions that are really accusations dressed in curiosity. They give compliments that are really insults, wearing a smile. They work quietly, and they work consistently, and they work with the patience of someone who believes deeply that if they just keep chipping away, eventually the surface will crack. But here is what they do not understand about you. They do not understand that you have already been cracked. You have already been broken. Not by them, by life. By something far older and far more honest than their petty engineering. You have already sat in the kind of darkness that has no floor. You have already faced the version of yourself that had no audience, no performance, no image to protect. Just you, alone, with everything stripped away. And somewhere in that stripping, somewhere in that terrible, quiet, absolute honesty, you found something underneath all of it that could not be taken, something permanent, something that belonged only to you. And that is the thing they cannot reach. That is the thing all their whispers and their implication and their careful social architecture cannot touch. Because they are aiming at the surface. They have always been aiming at the surface. And you found out a long time ago that the surface is not where you live. Wow. Think about how long it took you to understand that. Think about all the years you spent trying to manage their perception of you. All the years you spent shrinking yourself so that they would feel comfortable. All the years you spent dimming your own light because you had been taught in 1,000 different ways that a woman who is beautiful and smart and confident is somehow threatening, somehow too much, somehow asking for something she has no right to ask for just by existing in her full form. You were taught to apologize for your face, to downplay your mind, to make yourself smaller, so that the people around you would not feel the discomfort of being near someone who refused to choose between their gifts. And for a while, you listened to that teaching. For a while, you played the game. You softened your voice. You deflected the compliments about your intelligence. You laughed off the ideas that were later stolen and repeated back to you as someone else's insight. You stayed quiet in the rooms where staying quiet was safer. You carried the exhausting arithmetic of constantly calculating how much of yourself you were allowed to show before the punishment started. No. That was never yours to carry. You know that now. But then you did not know it. And the weight of it, the absolute daily grinding weight of pretending to be less than you are, it cost you something. It cost you time. It cost you energy. It may have cost you opportunities and relationships and versions of yourself you will never get back. And there is grief in that. Real grief. The kind that does not announce itself with tears, but instead shows up quietly in the middle of the afternoon when you are doing something ordinary and you suddenly feel the weight of every time you made yourself invisible to keep the peace. Let yourself feel that. Do not skip over it. Do not perform your recovery before you have actually recovered, because the The real turn, the moment that changes everything, it does not come from pretending the wound never happened. It comes from sitting with the wound long enough to understand it, long enough to see exactly what was taken and exactly what remained. And what remained, what always remains for the person who goes all the way down into the truth of themselves, is always more than anyone expected. Always. The people who tried to reduce you did you one accidental favor. They forced you inward. They forced you to stop performing for an audience that was never going to give you the verdict you deserved. They forced you to find out the hard way what you actually were when no one was watching, when there was no validation coming, when the approval was permanently withheld and the only question left was who are you without it? And that question, that is the most important question a person can ever face, because most people never face it. Most people spend their entire lives arranging their external world, so that question never has to be asked. They collect the titles and the praise and the visible markers of worth, and they use them as a wall between themselves and that question. They never have to find out who they are underneath all of it, because underneath all of it, they are terrified they will find nothing. But you faced it. Maybe not by choice. Maybe it was forced on you by circumstances that were unfair and painful and completely outside your control. But you faced it, and you did not find nothing. You found something extraordinary. You found that your intelligence was not dependent on anyone validating it. You found that your beauty was not diminished by someone refusing to acknowledge it. You found that your worth did not fluctuate based on who was paying attention. You found that the thing that made you who you are was something internal, something structural, something built into the architecture of your soul that no external verdict could construct or destroy. That discovery, that is the thing they cannot discredit. That is the foundation they cannot undermine. That is the answer to every whisper, every implication, every carefully engineered moment of doubt they have ever tried to plant in you. You know who you are. And people who know who they are cannot be reduced by people who do not. This is the law. This is not optimism. This is not inspiration. This is the simple mechanical truth of how identity works. A person who has done the work of actually knowing themselves, deeply, honestly, without performance or illusion, carries a kind of gravity that cannot be faked and cannot be diminished from the outside. You feel it in how they enter a room. You feel it in the quality of their silence. You feel it in the way they respond to provocation, not with fire, not with deflection, but with a stillness that somehow communicates everything. And that stillness, that is where you are headed. Maybe you are already there. Maybe you are almost there. Maybe you are watching this at 2 a.m. in the middle of a moment that does not feel like stillness at all. But you are headed there. Because look at what you have already survived. You survived being seen as only one thing when you were always 10 things. You survived a conversation in the corner of the room where someone decided your appearance meant your ideas did not count. You survived the meeting where your insight was ignored until a different voice repeated it. You survived the slow, patient campaign of people who wanted you to believe that you were too much and not enough simultaneously. You survived all of that, and here you are, not broken, not dimmed, not finished. Here, thinking, feeling, still. Nah, that is not nothing. That is everything. The discipline that comes after that kind of survival is different from any other kind of discipline. It is not the discipline of someone chasing external reward. It is not the discipline of someone trying to prove a point. It is the discipline of someone who has seen the bottom and decided, quietly and without drama, that they are going to build something real on the ground they are standing on. Not because anyone is watching, not because the validation is finally coming, not because they have forgiven everyone who wronged them and arrived at a place of perfect peace. No, simply because building is what they do. Because growth is not a strategy for this person. It is a condition. Because the question is no longer whether they are enough. The question is only what will they do with all of this. And that is the shift. That quiet, enormous, permanent shift from defending your worth to deploying it, from explaining yourself to expressing yourself, from managing their perception to simply existing in your full form and allowing the world to adjust. And the world does adjust. It always does. Not comfortably, not immediately, not without resistance. The people who needed you to be small will feel the discomfort of your expansion acutely. They will redouble their efforts for a while. They will recruit others. They will become more creative in their undermining. Because for someone whose entire strategy depends on you accepting a diminished version of yourself, there is nothing more threatening than watching you refuse. But here is the thing about resistance that is built on fear. It exhausts itself. It cannot sustain. It requires constant feeding with doubt and reaction and engagement. And when you stop engaging, when you stop looking to them for permission or validation or even acknowledgement, when you turn your full attention toward the work you are actually here to do, they find themselves pushing against nothing. And there is nothing more disorienting than pushing against nothing. Well, let them be disoriented. You have spent enough time and energy in the awareness of their opinion. You have given enough of your emotional life to the management of their perception. You have been generous beyond any reasonable obligation with your consideration of their comfort. And what you know now, what you have earned the right to know, is that none of that generosity was ever going to be enough. Not for them, because the problem was never anything you did or did not do. The problem was always what you represented. And what you represent is a version of possibility that makes their smallness visible. You cannot fix that for them. You cannot shrink yourself enough to make them comfortable with who you are. You cannot dim yourself enough to make them feel bright. The only thing you can do, the only sane, honest, self-respecting thing you can do, is refuse to make yourself the solution to a problem that was never yours, and then get to work. Because here is the part that they never accounted for in their careful architecture of undermining. Here is the part that all the whispers and the dismissals and the carefully placed doubts never factored in. They never factored in what you become when you stop spending energy on them. They never factored in what happens to a mind like yours when it stops splitting its attention between creation and defense, when it stops dividing its capacity between doing the work and managing the narrative. When it finally, fully, completely turns inward and starts applying everything it is to everything it is meant to do. What happens is extraordinary. What happens is the kind of growth that cannot be argued with. The kind of results that speak in a language that requires no translation. The kind of presence that does not announce itself, but simply occupies the room so completely that everyone feels it before they can explain why. What happens is, you finally fully, you, with nothing held back, and nothing apologized for, and nothing dimmed out of courtesy to people who were never worthy of the courtesy in the first place. That version of you, they are not ready for that version of you. No one is ever ready for the version of a person who has been through the fire and decided not to come out softer, not bitter, not hardened, not armored. Something more interesting than any of those things. Someone who came out clarified, distilled. Someone who knows exactly what they are and exactly what they are not, and has made a permanent, quiet peace with both. Someone who can look at the room that tried to reduce them and feel nothing hostile, nothing wounded, just a clear-eyed recognition of the gap between what those people imagined they were dealing with and what they were actually dealing with. You are not what they imagined. You never were. You are the person who absorbs the impact and converts it. The person who takes the weight of other people's fear and transforms it in the private laboratory of your own interior life into fuel. The person who does not need the apology, does not need the acknowledgement, does not need the moment of public recognition where everyone finally sees what you always were. You have stopped waiting for that moment because you understand at the deepest possible level that your worth was never in their hands to begin with. It was always in yours. It was always exactly where you put it, which is in the quality of your work, in the consistency of your character, in the integrity of your choices when no one was watching, in the way you treat people who can do nothing for you, in the private standard you hold yourself to when the only accountability is to something higher than public opinion. That is where your worth lives. That is where it has always lived. And no one, no campaign, no whisper, no committee of people who needed you to be less can touch it there. So let them be angry. Let them be confused. Let them stand in the middle of all their careful planning and look at you still standing, still growing, still undeniably, irreducibly yourself, and feel whatever they need to feel. You have work to do. And the most powerful answer you will ever give to everyone who doubted you, undermined you, or tried to make you choose between your gifts is the life you are building. Quietly, deliberately, with full knowledge of who you are and full commitment to becoming everything you have the capacity to become. That is the verdict. Not spoken, not performed, not announced to the people who need to hear it. Simply lived with a certainty so quiet and so absolute that it requires nothing from anyone and answers everything.